What's happening, everybody? Thank you for being here at All Access Live with Kevin Rankin. Before we get started, you know the drill. I would love it if you do me a favor. Go to the link below, go to youtube.com/@accesskevin and subscribe to this channel. Make sure that you hit the like button, share it with your friends, hit the bell to be notified about upcoming episodes. And you can also go back, if you subscribe to the channel, you can go back and you can look at all past episodes, amazing conversations. Last night, this time, we had Kip Winger. We had all sorts of actors and visionaries and authors and plenty of amazing musicians. You can also become a member at the YouTube channel. And if you do, you'll have access to episodes available only to members. So subscribe, if nothing else, and share it with your buddies. Also, I would love to thank my amazing sponsors. If you're interested in playing guitar, or you want to get accessories, or maybe get your guitar repaired, or take online lessons, you can go to 5starguitars.com. You'll find that everything you see there is available with a 15% discount using the promo code of All Access 15. So when you check out, use the All Access Live code, and also you'll get no sales tax if you order outside of Oregon. So you're going to save a ton of dough and support my amazing sponsors. Now, this conversation was supposed to happen 10 days ago, and then it was supposed to happen a couple of days after that. And by the incredible world of technology, we were able to assemble some of the members of this band again. And all the way from the Pacific Northwest, I've got the most amazing, the exquisite taste of plain water. Paul Bond, Eric French, and Jimi Evans. How you doing, gentlemen?
How's it going, Kevin?
Doing well.
It's
doing
great.
It's good to see you too, man. Thank you for assembling your schedule, getting guys all together, and braving the technology of the internet to get this conversation happening again.
We did it. We did it, man.
We appreciate it. We appreciate it.
I'm not sure if you noticed, but as a backdrop of this conversation, we've actually got I guess it's as close to plain water as I could possibly get. So, we've got an animated taste, and it's exquisite. So that's the best I could do in honor of you guys. So we're missing a couple members of the band, and that was just unfortunate. But at the end of this conversation, guys, if you do me a favor and you go to YouTube, there will be a card at the end of this video, and you'll be able to click on that card, and you can see some live music performances that we captured 10 days ago, and also a great conversation with all 5 members of the band. So, hey, Paul, do you mind just maybe talking a little bit about the other gentlemen in the band that are not here and present now?
For sure, yeah. Jeremy Knuth and what's the other guy's name? John Christoffersen.
Johnny Christo.
John Christo, yeah. And so those guys, yeah. The record just couldn't have been made without them. And the record I'm talking about is Sailor Songs or Battle Hymns. It's out now. And yeah, they had an integral part of kind of guiding it along and grinding away, getting it done. We sort of paid for it as we went. Everybody kind of like threw in their take on every paycheck we got, and kind of paid as we went, along with the support of some fans and friends, So yeah, those guys are real OGs, man, for sure. We miss them here tonight, but they just couldn't make it tonight.
Here in spirit, man. I'm grateful that you guys were able to. So in their position, we know that John is a bass player. Jeremy is the keyboardist in the band. And then you guys want, maybe we start with Paul, then Jimmy, and then Eric. You guys tell people a little bit more about your position in the band.
Yeah. So singer, songwriter, guitar player. And yeah, that's me, Paul.
It's so much more than that too, though.
Yeah.
I'm Jimmy, and I sing and play guitar. Mostly play guitar and write with Paul.
All right, Mr. French.
Yeah. Eric French and drums and percussion, and I pretty much run the entire show. I mean, these guys would be just nowhere without me. Let's just be honest here.
It's funny though. There's some truth to that. We joke about it because Jimmy and I are like these fluttering. We would never get shit done, man, for real. If it was just
really,
yeah. And Eric is like, hey, this is, he's like kind of a taskmaster a little bit.
Really? All right.
We would never get anything done. I swear to God.
Yeah.
So that Eric is not wrong when he says that.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, I was joking. One thing I'd like to add too, and this is kind of interesting. And Jimmy and Paul, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it was 2 years ago today that we went into the recording studio for the first time to begin tracking the new album, Sailor Songs or Battle Hymns. So today actually marks the 2-year anniversary. Yeah, Jackpot.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
that's
You know,
crazy.
I love that you can see waiting in the wings. He's working, but he's multitasking. John Christoffersen is here. He's watching. So, John, I'm glad you're here, at least vicariously. So now that we can't talk about hymns, but well,
yeah. No, he does great work too. By the way, he's a special soul for sure.
Yeah.
So,
well, as a drummer, I certainly connect with rhythm sections, so I mentioned this when I was at your rehearsal, Eric. I was watching you and John sort of interact, and the way that he played, I could see that John is a very accomplished player, right? You can tell that he's a very skilled musician, but played really sparse parts in a way that it was really complementary to the music. And it made it so that I, as a drummer, I really enjoyed watching you, Eric, kind of vibe with him. It looked like you guys were just locked, man. There was no fluctuation in both tempo and feel. So it must be fun for you, right?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I'm sure John does too. I love playing with John, and and myself also being a bass player, it's really something that I focus in on, is just locking in with the bassist. I think the drums and the bass really lays the foundation for everything else to kind of sit on top, the guitars and the vocals and the piano and everything like that. And he is a fantastic bass player, great ideas. He executes well. I just have a ball playing with him. It's great.
Well, you're a bass player too, I guess, so that helps, right? You're able to do, sort of think from both perspectives, right?
Yeah. I mean, he does a really. I was just gonna say he does a really good job of playing the right notes and allowing space for the other instrumentation. It's like sometimes you need to know sometimes what not to play is as important as what to play, and giving songs room to breathe. And allow other parts to come in and do their thing is, not everybody has that, and he definitely has an innate ability to do that.
Yeah, that's important, man. In the chat too, I see our brother Skip Stone is here, the birthday boy. He's hanging out with us on his birthday. I appreciate that.
Of course he is. I think him. Last time I saw him, we went to Wasp. That Wasp film.
Yeah. In October. It was on October 28th. It was my birthday, and I was out of town.
Man, it was great, man. I know I saw a lot of people there I knew. That was kind of cool. So,
I'm a huge Wasp fan. And
me too, especially that first early stuff, man.
Yeah, those first two records, like every song, start to finish. And I think Blackie Lawless is one of the most underrated singers, even though people dog him, but Jimmy, quit laughing. Stop it. I can see it.
Different strokes, man. Different strokes.
We could talk about guilty pleasures for sure. I mean, like,
I got
I usually do. I usually get to the end of them, but let's do that. Let's talk about some guilty pleasures. If I was going to go through, Jimmy, if I was looking at your Spotify or Apple playlist, what might I be surprised by to see?
I don't know if you'd be surprised. I mean, I like a lot of.
I wouldn't
be. I like a lot of pop music. I'm sort of a pop music guy. I got a foot on each side of that fence, so I don't know if that surprised you. I like Taylor Swift. I'm not afraid to say it. Yeah.
I got some T Swift in my playlist. Yeah.
You know what? I'm actually a huge fan of anything that Jack Antonoff produces. So
okay.
A lot of pop stuff.
I like if you're talking about. I'm talking about guilty pleasures where I'm kind of embarrassed to say it. So now I'm gonna.
Here we go.
Let's hear it.
I fucking love Blink 182, dude. I mean, I'm sorry. It's just got this driving melody and like. Why
are they dogging you?
Well, I mean, Blink 182 is not the most. I also love Dashboard Confessional. I fucking love them.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Not the most.
I honestly, man, like Travis Barker is a ridiculously killer drummer, man. The guy, there's nothing he can't play. So I saw there was a video of the Fire Aid show that was down in Los Angeles a couple weeks ago, and he was playing the Seeger tune, Hollywood Nights. and it blew my mind, man. That song is wicked fast, and his part, it was. I mean, he can obviously play fast, but I think that he might get sort of pigeonholed into that pop punk thing, but he was a marching drummer before, and he's got jazz chops too. So whatever. Anyway. All right, Eric,
they're cool, man.
Let's hear your guilty pleasure. Let's hear it, Eric.
I can go for ABBA all day long, man. I love ABBA. Anytime I'm doing something like a project, painting, or even on a road trip, it's like I can throw on ABBA and just be totally content. Love it.
Yeah.
That's good though.
That's actually I think that's probably the most common answer, to be honest with you. If everybody on the planet says that they like ABBA, then there's nothing guilty about it, right?
There you go.
That's true.
That's
true.
I don't know that I've even talked about it on my show, but you'll laugh. I guarantee you'll laugh at me for this, but I'm not even closet. I'm a way open, hardcore Rick Springfield fan. I think Rick Springfield is so badass, and he's a wicked guitarist, and his drummer's a buddy of mine. And I ran into him at NAMM, and I said, "Look, man, I'm not going to break your knees or anything because I don't want your gig. I just want one gig. I want to sub for you one time, just to cross out the bucket list, and then you can go back to your G4 jet and do all the Rick Springfield stuff." But
I know Tommy was playing with them. Tommy Heath was playing with them last summer, right? But we never got a chance to go see that. Yeah.
It's a great show.
It's funny. I was at this record shop in Vancouver downtown, and they're just flipping. It'll go from a hardcore record to whatever. I mean, they play a lot of eclectic, different stuff. And I heard this record, and I knew every song on it. And I was like, "Who the fuck?" I couldn't who is that? And it was Rick Springfield. I was like, I couldn't believe I knew the whole record, man. Pretty cool.
You know who another one is like that too is Richard Marx, man, and who we're both touring together. But every Richard Marx song you'll know, and and rockers are gonna dog the guy for being real pretty and writing all these ballads. But at the end of the day, every song the guy writes is a platinum record, and Eddie gets all the girls, and he knows it, and he laughs about it. But hey, Marcus Oaksa in the chat was asking Paul if you were at the Scorpions. Opened by Tesla at the Frankfurt.
Marcus was one of my war dogs, man. He was in Desert Storm with me. It's cool that it's cool. I wasn't at that show, but I was at I did go to Guns N' Roses, Skid Row, and Nine Inch Nails all on one bill. And then I went to that was in Germany. And then we went to Iron Maiden and Anthrax and King's X over there, which was cool.
You are a metalhead, man. I love this.
Dude, I love metal. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Jimmy does too.
Well, so Jimmy and I we've done gigs together. We played almost 20 years ago, I think, or maybe even probably about that, right? With John Thayer, I think.
At least that, yeah.
And but we were talking about pop records, Jimmy. I had a rehearsal with our mutual friend Rob Dacre last night. He said to say, "Hey."
Okay.
And, he loves all you guys, right? But he's got a brand new single that he just sent me today. And it's unbelievable, man. It's so hooky. I can't believe this song. It's so good. So he'll be on the show.
That's what he does, man.
He's a talent.
He's a hook master for sure.
Yeah. It's crazy.
When I met, that's kind of how I met you. Is I was probably 20 years old, just starting to play, and I was actually making a demo. And Rob Dacre, I'd heard the Generator album that he did with Dan Reed, loved it. It blew my mind. And I got a hold of him, and he was going to start producing a solo record that I was making up here at Jeff Warner's studio from Black and Blue. Whoop.
Right.
And Rob came to the studio a couple days and never finished it. But from that day on, I got to play with Slow Rush for a little bit, fill in on bass.
That's right. So when Caleb was out of the band, you went in and did finish that tour, right?
Yeah, for a little bit. It was fun. It was great.
Yeah. That man, well, that we'll have a conversation about that too. But I think it's interesting that this really is, I don't want to call it incestuous. That is very, what is the word I'm looking for? It's a very, at least collective organization, this band, this community, the community musicians, cause all three of you guys played together in different formats, and Jimmy and Eric, you guys had Throwback Suburbia, right? And you had Mike Collins on drums in that project before. So I think, and Paul, when I started talking to you about doing this episode, I told you that on the phone You sound exactly like Mike Collins on the phone. And I just keep waiting for the irreverent jokes to come, and you're much more civilized than he is.
It's funny with Mike. First of all, Mike is.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Mike's a sweetheart, and you know, the goddamn, just the greatest. You're a great drummer, man, great songwriter. But we joke about he's so witty. Like I would never try to match wits with that guy because
he's quick.
I mean, he's sharp, man. Yeah.
Yep. Well, I mean, you guys all had that kind of banter in the studio. It was really fun to watch your rehearsal. And the thing we can talk a little bit about the formation of the band and what made this so unique, but people that come to a show, and I've not got to see you guys play live, but what I bet people notice is that there is a common reverence for each other on stage. You guys all look like you really enjoy each other's company, which is rare in a lot of bands, you know? So imagine some of that was not an accident. Did you guys sort of put this band together with that in mind, that you wanted to make sure that the hang was key?
Well, I mean, Jimmy could speak on that a little bit, probably with the fact that like life's too short not to spend time with people you want to spend time with. You know what I mean? Especially the older you get.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what we've done, you know, and sort of assembled people that you want to hang out with, you know. So, and we all live kind of close together, sort of, you know. I mean, we're in other than Eric, I suppose.
Yeah, except for me, I have to take a connecting flight to get to band practice.
Are you in another state from these guys, Eric?
Well, yeah, I'm like kind of on the edge of Tigard and Beaverton, so I gotta hop 3 different freeways to get to rehearsals. You know.
Yeah, man. Portland traffic is not good these days at all.
You do what you got to do, you know.
That's how good the music is, man.
That's what makes it worth it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the formation of the band. You guys had been together in different projects, and how did this particular formation come together?
Well, it was on the heels of Throwback. We actually were sort of going to take a break. There's one track in particular that I had been working on, and I think we started working on it when waiting for people to get to rehearsal. Jimmy and I would kind of mess around with it. And now we've recorded it 3 times. This one idea, it's called The Space Between the Curves. And
still working on it.
Yeah. But that was kind of the first thing we were working on. It's kind of folky. And so that we just kind of slid into that, and that's where it began. Eric, I think, heard us working on it and was interested in that. But that was kind of the first song. But then we just started plugging away. And actually, it was just Jimmy and I at first. We were just doing duo stuff, you know. And then we were like, as we do with everything, we started, it'd be cool to add this, it'd be cool to add that. And pretty soon we got a full band.
Yeah. Is that how, like, I mean, the band's been around for a few years now. So has it evolved into more of a collaborative writing where you've got all 5 guys contributing to the parts?
It's the actual songs usually are Jimmy or I, or Jimmy and I will bring like an idea, or Jimmy and I would get together and collaborate. We just did that the other day, or a few weeks ago. And then we'll present them to the band and everyone. It's pretty much free reign. There's no bad ideas, nowhere we won't go, to try to figure out how to put it down. So, but yeah, the song idea starts with me, Jimmy, or both of us together.
Yeah. That question was supposed to lead you guys into a band breakup, but you didn't bite, so that's all right.
No. In fact, Jimmy and I we've been doing it so long that we just, regardless of like with publishing and stuff like that. Yeah. Regardless of whether or not I might have written 80% of whatever, we just split it, right? Like 50-50 and regardless, because it just feels good that way,
It's
so,
also
he does the same for me.
Yeah, and with our failing memories, it's just easier that way, right? Like we don't have to remember. Who did what?
When you hear about the bands back in like the 70s and 60s, when bands would make sure that there was a sort of an even split, it seems like those bands tended to stay around a lot more, than the bands that would, like, Yeah, I mean, I've been in a handful of those bands, right, where there was a discrepancy and certainly an argument about the amount of contribution that was made. It's tough. I mean, because that part of the business, it's a really shitty part of music, right? It really would be nice if you didn't have to worry about any of that. And, the universe just provided unlimited funds to musicians and creatives in general, right? And you could just not worry
Wait a
about
minute. Whoa.
selling.
You mean it doesn't work that way?
Let's talk about what really happens. Okay.
Unlimited funds?
Hey,
what's this unlimited funds thing?
The percentage of nothing is nothing.
Isn't that sad? Yeah.
That's kind of math I'm good at.
Yeah.
I like in the chat, John Christoffersen says, "Hey, I've got songs too." So we don't sorry, John. Yeah, you'll get your 5% after.
Yeah.
And Skip, actually, he says to you guys need to tell me how he met John Christo.
Oh
That's
my
a
God.
pretty funny story, actually.
Yeah.
Because it was before. Well, someone could probably tell it better than I, but someone else wants to take it.
I'll go ahead and start, but fill in the gaps if I forget something. Paul and I had a gig at a show. I don't remember if you had spoken to John prior to that, but he was interested in the band, and Paul and I were playing a festival, sort of a folk festival, and it was just the two of us. And John had said, "Well, I'll come out and check you guys out." Actually, I'm gonna bleed into how we met Jeremy too, because it's all gonna sort of come back around. So Paul and I show up, we play this gig. John's there. We talk a bit. He likes the music. We like his vibe. Feels like it's something we can move forward with. Coincidentally, Jeremy was there running sound for us. But that we just sort of put that on hold for a while. He's like, "I play keys," and we're like, "Oh, maybe we'll have to," but we just sort of put that on hold. Then it was like a day or so later, we were going to make plans to rehearse with John or get together, but we all get a text, a group text, and it's John sitting next to Skip. What was it? Iron Maiden?
Yeah, I was actually there. I was
there too. Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
So Skip is like the common thread in this whole scene, right? Like he knows everybody.
in all scenes, absolutely. Yeah. We had the same conversation with Kip Winger last night too. So
Skip.
Well, I told Kip last night because Skip was very involved in the chat. I told Kip there's like Skip is a music encyclopedist. He knows all genres. He knows everybody within the scene. Somehow there is a 6 degrees of separation that all comes together with Skip, So, and honestly, the great thing, I mean, not to kiss his ass while he's here, but he's so incredibly supportive of the music scene in general. Like, I'm betting you guys collectively, if you could talk about all the bands that you guys have been involved in, and you added up all the songs or all the shows that Skip attended, you'd probably come up with 100 shows. I would imagine, right?
A lot.
So, I was thinking,
and that whole I was going to say that whole 6 degrees of separation thing. You've got Skip Stone and you've got Kip Winger, but have you ever met Skip Winger?
Winger, or Kip Stone,
or Kip Stone. That's right.
I was saying if we only had 1 million more of Skip, we'd all have $80 probably.
That's true, man. It wouldn't just be the support either. I mean, the financial support. He brings an air of positivity, which is awesome. He's like everybody's brother. So we all need a Skip in our lives, and
that's true.
We talked a bunch in the conversation with Kip last night about positivity and sort of bringing that kind of spirit to people, especially in a time right now where things are really, really difficult in the world. And I think there's a catharsis in music. So maybe we talk a little bit about how the music has been for you guys. Maybe we can go in reverse order. We can have Eric, then Jimmy, and then Paul talk about how you dealt with COVID and, how that affected you musically.
Yeah. That was a tough time for anybody in performing arts. Doesn't matter if you're in theater or music or anything, because everything just completely shut down. We did some kind of remote sessions and kind of released a couple of videos of some songs that were recorded remotely, recording all of our parts at each other's, at our houses. And we did a couple of live stream concerts as well that we just streamed live on YouTube. And so that allowed us, the ability to kind of sort of, feel like we're still doing this. But man, I tell you, when COVID was over and we were finally able to get back out and playing live again, it was cathartic. I mean, it's just, there's just nothing worse than sitting on your hands and not being able to do the thing that you love. And,
Right.
for me personally, I was going through health stuff and stuff during COVID at the time too. That was really hard. And, so that was a pretty difficult 1.5, 2 year stretch. Yeah.
We'll come back to your health, man. I want to be able to talk about that a little bit, but yeah, I mean, on this side of things, I'm really glad, that we got on not only on the other side of COVID, but the other side of where you've been, so far. So how about Jimmy? You got a studio there. I'm guessing that was a big part of what you did during COVID.
Yeah. It was bittersweet. I want to recognize the privilege in that. And it wasn't that way for everybody, but I appreciated the slower pace, the time it provided, the chance to sort of reassess yourself. And there were it created a pause in my life that I felt was good, creatively and otherwise. But, the two-sided coin of reality was what Eric was talking about. Like, it was really hard to not be able to get together. I remember we had a couple rehearsals outside in my gazebo. John brought his upright bass, and you just try to find ways to scratch that itch. But yeah, I think by the time we were able to actually get out, play, be all together, that felt incredibly relieving. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How about you, Paul?
I'm a little bit like Jimmy in that I'm kind of a recluse, so it didn't affect me in that way. I thought this is great. I'm just hanging out at home, playing my guitar. The thing that affected me the worst, my kids were of age of playing sports and stuff in high school, and that just ended, just shut down. And so that was a real drag. It actually changed sort of the trajectory of my son a little bit. We thought he was going to play some college baseball, and just 2 seasons gone, So that was kind of a drag, but he's doing great. Don't get me wrong, but that would have been kind of cool. My daughter is playing college softball and basketball. In fact, she had a game tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they actually won tonight. I was watching it. They won. It was a buzzer beater, 3-pointer buzzer beater. For the win against Portland Community College. Yeah.
Nice. Right on. Congrats to your daughter, man. You have 2 kids?
Go Penguins. Yeah. 2. Yep. Boy and a girl.
Okay. Yeah. A boy and a girl. And Jimmy?
I got 2 kids, a boy and a girl.
Oh man. And Eric?
I've got 2 kids, boy and a girl, twins.
Oh my goodness, man. That's,
now, here's the other thing too. Jeremy also has twins as well. So, but his are a lot younger. My twins are 21. He's still kind of on the front end of things, but Jeremy's also got twins, so we have that in common.
And Johnny Christo, are you all of his kids?
He's got a dog.
He's got Mingus.
Yeah. He's got Mingus.
And 4 bandmates, which is kind of like having kids too.
Exactly.
I know I'm a 12-year-old, so
so we never have to be our age, right? We are essentially as old as we act. So as long as we don't act like we're geriatric, then we'll stay this young forever, right? So
that's right.
I asked about the COVID question because I started doing this show at that point when I was stuck at home and not touring, and I was calling on Facebook, doing Facebook Lives with other bands that we'd been touring with, and sort of just commiserating about, oh man, this virus, this might go on for maybe a month or 2. We might be stuck at home. You're not realizing, right, that 2 years later, we're barely able to get back out again. But what I noticed with and Eric, you touched on this, people that are in any sort of creative space or performance type space, actors, athletes, musicians, we have this sense of identity. And for a lot of us, what we do sort of defines who we are, and when you're presenting and you're a performer and all of that gets put on hold, there's an identity crisis. And So trying to figure out ways, I mean, the term pivot, happened a lot during COVID, but Jimmy, you're in mental health, right? You're a mental health therapist. And I would bet that you saw a huge spike in issues with mental health during that time. And a lot of it has to do with that what people had done for their livelihood is no longer there.
Yeah. Certainly, I think there's a lot of that. I mean, it's a whole host of things, right? Like it was that identity. What do I do with myself? What am I supposed to be doing with myself? A lot of people that were spending a lot more time with family and relationships, and that was obviously stirring up stuff. So,
oh yeah,
I still consider it a privilege that many of those people that I at least was aware of and came into contact with were taking this opportunity to try to like reflect and think about pivot, like you're saying, pivoting or just sort of getting to know themselves a little better, get clearer about themselves. And, that's sort of I have this belief. I think that, that's where creativity comes from. It's when we're stuck. It's when we're anxious. It's when we feel like we don't have a lot of control that we start looking for things to do. Again, I want to temper that with a bit of humility because I know that this was a really hard time for people.
Right.
But I guess I'm looking at the gifts that it sort of bore. But yeah. I think what it did is it made a lot of people sort of again slow down. The pace of life is such that we often don't have to think about these things. We get distracted easily. We can move, and just this slowing down. It really you're confronted with a lot. I think at least I was.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Do you guys remember the first time you got to go out and perform live after COVID?
I'm trying to remember what show that was.
It might have been Brick House over in Vancouver.
Or Trap Door, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. It's so long ago.
I'm surprised, honestly. Like for me, I can remember everything about the load in and just being so excited to hit it again. And it was something that I didn't know would ever happen again. Things kept getting pushed out and farther, and you watch venues go under and and promoters tanking and musicians throwing in the towel and jumping onto new careers. And it's just it was concerning. And one thing I noticed, I did a lot of international touring right after COVID, and one good thing about Europe was that they subsidized the arts in a lot of places. And I noticed that every venue had a stipend to help boost their production. So most of them got new soundboards and new lighting systems and new monitoring systems and sort of increased the patron experience. And so making, like Jimmy said, I mean, taking some of the positive attributes and making something good out of something that was really challenging. It was nice to see,
For sure.
Kevin, did your relationship with music change after that? Like, it sounds like you were really aware that of that divide.
Unfortunately, I recognized that it was more of my identity than I planned for it to be. Yeah. I really did face the identity crisis during the pandemic. It took a toll on me in a bunch of different ways. Not being, because I'm not a guy that will sit home and tinker and practice and write. I'd like to be on stage with my bandmates and performing, and I need the energy from other people. Yeah. I thrive on that, and which is why I started doing the show, right? I just love people and I love that connection. And when that went away, it was a dark time, man, for me. It was tough. And I'm grateful to have developed these kinds of relationships with people, but I also, I had to do a lot of reflection, and recognizing that it has, like, life is full of all sorts of substantial parts, and I don't want to just necessarily put all of my eggs in that one basket,
Yeah.
In the chat, thank you for asking, Jimmy. Yeah. I see that Skip said your first show was just a duo. It was Jimmy and Paul. He was there. Of course, Skip knows.
Of course, Skip was there.
You should have just had Skip on tonight and asked him about it.
Believe me, there's gonna be a Skip episode, but I think we're gonna do it in the Philippines.
Yeah.
We're gonna do it from the Philippines, and we're gonna have Mary Chris, his wife, there, and she's gonna make some lumpia and maybe some pancit. And man, Boy, that girl can cook. Let me tell you. Right? I don't know if you've had dinner over at Skip's house.
I have not. Skip, I'm waiting. We should shout out to Mr. Ian Southworth as well, our sixth member of the band, because Eric was talking about the live streams and all that.
Yeah,
that was all Ian. I mean, the amount of stuff he's done for us is crazy.
It is. And actually, after I saw you guys a week and a half ago, then I went back down the rabbit hole and I looked at all this stuff, and he's a really talented filmmaker, man. That guy he's so good. So how did that connection happen? How'd you guys all start working together?
So I actually met him, and I'll probably screw this up too, but I was
way to have faith in yourself.
Paul. Yeah, I know. Well, I'm just thinking about the time frame, because I was kind of a mess. It was toward the end of Triple Swift, the band Triple Swift.
Hold on, Paul. Do you want to phone a friend? Do you want to call Skip and just ask him real quick? Like,
Skip would probably know. But I think we were doing the end of Triple Swift. I think our bass player at the time was moving out of country. In fact, it was Brendan, who was the bass player of the Exquisite prior to John, and he moved out of country then too. Son of a bitch. Anyway, so Triple Swift was coming to an end. We did a show at Ash Street Saloon, our final show, and Ian came and filmed it. He was friends with Eddie Esparza. I don't know if you know Eddie, but
Eddie was
So Eddie was our drummer, a longtime Triple Swift drummer, and so that's how I met him, through Eddie, and then we just became friends. I mean, especially when the Exquisite started going, I kind of reached out to him to see if he'd be. I think it was for a Triple Swift reunion. He came, and then asked him if he'd be interested in doing some Exquisite stuff, and he did, and now he's been with us, pretty much all along.
Wow, long time.
Yeah,
but I see Marcus again. Your old infantry mate. He said you guys should play Summerfest in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
absolutely, I could see you doing that. Oh, Eric just disappeared. He said he's out of here. We're not asking enough questions. He
was feeling neglected.
That's right. Here, let me let it back in here. Eric, you're switching spots.
There we go.
We're gonna cycle you guys.
It just all of a sudden crashed on me, and anyway.
That's all right, man. This is the beautiful thing. I can remove you and add you back in whenever I choose.
Well,
I'm the dungeon master.
Back to Marcus. Yeah, we should play Summerfest in Milwaukee.
It's amazing.
I agree.
Great idea, Marcus.
Make it happen, Marcus. I've done it a few times. We had the most incredible experience. Here's a homework for you guys. If you go out and search Summerfest, A Flock of Seagulls, Rainfall. We have a song called Rainfall. It was third song in our set list. We started performing at Summerfest, and it's a massive festival, right? You're looking out at a sea of people, and probably, 25,000-30,000 people. And the rain came harder than I've ever seen it in my life. The YouTube video will attest. It was raining sideways. It's open air festival stadium or stage. And you can't see me because so much massive drops are pelting on the cymbals, ruining all my electronics, my triggers and everything like that. And we're playing on. We're going to keep playing. We're going to keep playing. Happened to happen right during that song. And the promoter is trying to the stage manager is trying to get us off stage. He's trying to grab a tarp and wave us off. And we play on until they finally yank us off with the cane. But it was timely and awesome. And I think it's appropriate that Plain Water would be there as well. Right. So let's talk about the name. Marcus, were you there? He said nobody left. That's exactly right. Nobody left. They all sat there. They shut it down after 5 songs. And then they kept saying, well, we're going to start it up again as long as there's not a lightning risk. And people waited for close to an hour in that crazy rain, and they just stayed. So Marcus must have been there. Marcus, sorry, man.
I'm telling you, Marcus and that crew, we had a crew that in the Army that all hung together over in Germany, and it was, you can't find another batch of nutbags like these guys, man.
Yeah.
It was a blast. It was crazy. It was crazy, man. And Marcus, there was quite a crew, man. So shout out to the Bulldogs, man. for sure.
The Bulldogs, yeah.
Yeah, Bravo Bulldogs. Yep.
How much were you doing some songwriting back then when you were in the Army?
Yeah. There was a guy actually, my best friend over there, Dennis Daly, just passed away, man. It's only been a year, I think. Him and I would write. He was a singer, great singer, man, and we were writing over there. So I was like, some of the first stuff I ever wrote was over there during that time. I think I still have like some Tascam 4-track cassette, really raw of some of the songs we wrote together, so
really?
Pretty wild.
Okay.
But he was he got some cancer, and I think it was related to exposure over there, and passed away, and it was super sad, man. I mean, same age as me. But I remember when he was kind of going through it, I would send him little clips of me playing guitar, like, hey man, you got any ideas for this? And we kind of like just over the phone. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere, but I was hoping that would sort of alleviate some of his pain that he was going through, that kind of thing. But,
yeah, man.
Yeah, sure miss him, but
that's brutal.
Pretty
man.
heavy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely. So guys, if you're watching this on Instagram, I apologize about missing your chats early on. I'm only seeing clips that are coming out on YouTube. But Wade Harris asked a little question about where your inspiration came from. So let's talk about the name. Paul, you have a great sort of canned answer for where the Exquisite Taste of Plain Water came from.
Yeah, it was actually something that I heard. I think it was like a it was some kind of it's out of a Buddhist book, I think, and I saw the line, "The exquisite taste of plain water," is regarding sort of the basis of life, like being without, like coming out of a fast, how good food tastes, or going through a desert where you've been without water, and then that first drink of water that you actually have is fucking outrageous. I mean, so wonderful tasting, and yet at the end of the day, it's just water, right? And so that was kind of we sort of used that as a slant of like, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're just going to make some cool sounding pop rock songs, Americana songs. And so we were like, let's just call it the exquisite taste of plain water, So it's been a marketing nightmare, been stupidest thing we could ever done. But it's a cool name, I think, anyway.
I think so too. It's nice that you actually have an abbreviated domain name. I'm putting it down here. Guys, if you're watching this, look at the little caption below. The Exquisite Taste in Plain Water reduces down on the web to just www.etpw.band. So you can go out there. It's a great website, man. It's really, really well done.
That's Eric. Eric does that. Yeah.
Nicely done, buddy. Well, props to you, man.
Thank you.
Having been a web guy for forever, man, I was appreciative of the intuitive design. It's creative and clean, and but showcases everything. All the good stuff. There's a lot of great video there, and people can go and see great, high res photos and get a little more info on each person in the band. As far as the name came from, that's great. How about just inspiration in your style? I know that when you guys were together in Throwback Suburbia, it was much more of I felt like kind of a pop punk sort of driven band, but stylistically, this band is stripped down. You had some really cool descriptions about how you describe your style. Can you tell me a little bit about, how about Jimmy? You want to tell me a little more?
Yeah, well, I think, Paul and I were talking a lot after Throwback had decided to take a break. We were sort of it was just the two of us. And the daunting task of putting a band together and trying to sort of navigate all that, we were just starting to pop out some song ideas. So, Paul, I think, had said at some point, like, maybe this is sort of a project that could exist, the apocalypse, we're off the grid, everything's wiped out, two guys with two guitars and some lyrics could still communicate and express what we wanted to express. So we really embraced that, and we just thought, this is going to be it. And then, like Paul said earlier, like as we tend to do, it's like, let's add, and it grew from there. But basically the idea was to just be this really kind of like the exquisite taste of plain water. Like, it's very simple. Throwback Suburbia was a big sort of project in that sense.
Yeah.
Like a lot of us, big sound, big sort of thing. And so this was maybe the pendulum swinging the other way, and we're just like simple, real, cut and dry. And yeah.
Did you use, were there other bands that you listened to that kind of drew that inspiration from?
I think I've, well, Jimmy will attest to this too. I mean, I'm like a huge Elliott Smith fan. I mean, I mean, just like everything he ever did. And I've got to see him, actually his last Portland show. And so I think I'm personally influenced by Elliott Smith. I'm influenced by a lot of heavy metal stuff when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, like I'm like bands like, you know, Driving and Crying, you know, Jason Isbell, Drive By Truckers,
Bright
you know,
Eyes,
Ryan Adams, Bright Eyes, Wilco.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just melody and kind of organic sort of, you know, beat on an acoustic and have a couple harmonies there, you know, vocals. So, and Jimmy is so great with vocals. So I like, he makes me sound good. So.
Well, there really is a simpatico with your harmonies. I mean, you guys really do blend well together. And I think it's one thing to have a voice that intuitively harmonizes well, you know, with other singers, but you guys know each other so well. And I think you probably, you can anticipate where that person's going. I would bet you could probably sit down and just jam and have some pretty solid songs out of just chord structures and you know, coming up with oohs and ahs and have something right out of the gate in a couple minutes, I would bet.
I mean, that's
like
literally,
you're saying we don't need these other guys. Like, is that what you're saying?
I don't know if you remember, but before you were filming the other day, we were working on a new tune, and that was literally brand new. Like, and I don't know, you could hear how developed it already was.
Yeah,
right out
absolutely.
Of the gate. Yeah. So it's, definitely. You know, Jimmy and I have been together a long time.
Yeah.
So, well, and Eric too, actually. Yeah. So,
sure. Yeah. Jimmy and Paul, you guys are like the Keith and the Mick, or the Joe Perry and Steven Tyler, right?
We've been compared to all kinds of couples. So
yeah.
It's kind of like the Bret Michaels and CC DeVille kind of, you know.
Was that the metal we're talking about, Eric? You mentioned being a big metal fan. What's your metal? Like, if I was going to just ask you to name your Mount Rushmore of metal bands, Eric, give me your top 4.
Top 4? Oh man, Sabbath. You just can't. Black Sabbath has to be on there. Probably. Iron Maiden though has got to be up there too. Definitely a close second. It's not metal, but people refer to them as metal. As AC/DC to me is just the pinnacle of, you know, hard rock band. Is definitely up there. And you know, then I'd probably have to go a little bit more on the edgier side, and you know, those first 4 Slayer records, boy, you can't go wrong with that. So I might throw that in there.
Oh, I'd love to hear an Exquisite Taste of Plain Water version of Rain and Blood. I think that'd be a fantastic thing. You know?
Well, I'll tell you, we haven't done it yet. I think Skip recorded it live. We did it live one time, but we've got an Americana version of The Trooper from Maiden.
Oh, nice.
We did.
Awesome.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
We just haven't actually recorded it yet, but I think that's going to be one of the next orders of business, is getting that done.
Yeah.
They're pretty cool.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned that. I'm going to see Miles Kennedy up in Seattle tomorrow, and I've seen him a bunch.
Yeah.
Yep, he does a cover. He does a cover of The Trooper. He does a cover of Highway to Hell. He also does a Sabbath tune, I think, every once in a while. It's not every show. It's just he'll throw them out. So he nailed. Slayer might be the only one of all those groups that he hasn't laid down. But
and there's nothing he can't sing. I mean, holy cow!
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous, man. I'm excited for the show. And the thing about Miles is, way back when you and I first met all of you guys, I had just been in a local band on Alama, and our band was playing with Miles in Seattle. We had a couple shows together with this old band, the Mayfield 4, and they hadn't yet signed their record deal. We were still chasing ours. There was one show that they ended up opening up for us, and we got there after. And there's no way I wanted to go on stage after watching that whole band. It was Miles, but his current drummer too, Zia, was in the band then, and it was so heavy and so badass. And Miles was, you could tell, like one of the most incredible guitarists and vocalists on the planet at that point. It's tough to go on after somebody like that, you know.
Yeah.
But he's also a genuinely great dude, so it's cool to see him getting all those opportunities, you know. So, but
it's funny you mentioned that with bands like that. Jimmy and I were on the same bill together in different bands. I think it was Triple Swift and Red Sector. And the headliner of this show. Have you ever heard of the band Post Stardom Depression?
Jefferson Angel, man. Walking Papers. I go see him. Another. He's at the top of the list, man.
Dude.
Absolutely.
Okay,
we
so Jimmy, Red Sector played their set. Triple Swift plays their set. These guys go on. Yeah. And I'm like,
put on a clip.
Do you want anyone want to buy my guitar? Because holy shit, man! Like
I know
that was incredible, man. So
it keeps getting better, dude. Yeah. I'm telling you. I don't know if you guys have seen the newer version of Walking Papers, but it's so good. And I'm a band geek, man. I'm telling you, when I'm not gigging, I travel to see these bands. Like I've gone all over the place to see Walking Papers. I was going to go to Europe to see them because they had a European tour and they were doing all these shows I wanted to see. Big Wreck, another one. I've gone to Canada to see Big Wreck. I've gone to Toronto, gone to Denver, like crazy band. You were talking Scorpions earlier, Marcus. I went to Germany to go find the Scorpions in 1989. So I went to their hometowns. Sorry for stalking you boys, but
I love the Scorpions, man.
Dude, that was my band, man. Like growing up in junior high and high school, the band was everything to me. And but I bet I could ask you guys each about how Zeppelin may have influenced you at some point. Did any of the three of you or all three catch the new Zeppelin documentary that just
I haven't yet.
Not yet. But I intend to. Yeah.
You have to, and you got to see it in the theater. Don't do the whole wait till it comes on Netflix because you need to hear it big. It's remastered. It's ridiculously cool.
Yeah.
But unless you are a massive historian, because I thought I knew all the stories, man. Yeah. There was so much about this that I didn't know. There were parts in this, but as songwriters and guys that the position you guys are in, the fascinating thing about it for me was seeing the role that Jimmy Page had in making everything happen. Everything. The dude had paved the way doing all the session stuff, right? So when he came to the record company, he had brought all the guys in after having done the Yardbirds, and the band was actually acting and playing as the Yardbirds when they signed the first record. I didn't know that. They went in with Peter Grant was in the studio with him, and it was just Jimmy Page, and he sat down with the record label with Atlantic and said, "Here's the record. We will not take any input. You don't get to hear one song. You don't get to rearrange the song orders. You don't get to decide what's going to be a first single. This is what we're giving you, and this is what we're going to sign." And he demanded all of where the record was distributed. He wanted all the publishing. This dude laid it all out. He made the contract. That is completely unheard of. It was an unknown band, even though he'd done everything with the Yardbirds and everybody knew who he was.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you've already kind of made a name for yourselves, so you should call yourself something else. Keith Moon came up with the name. That story's been around for a bit. But watching the power that Jimmy Page had and how he made all this stuff happen, I had a totally different perspective on him. Wow. And so all of those things, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff I won't even spoil, but I came away from that movie with a new appreciation for the band. And there's a part in it's amazing that there's a bunch of audio footage from Bonham that had never been heard before. Guy, like Plant, John Paul Jones, Jimmy Page had never heard that footage. So they play it for them in the documentary, and you could see them misting up. But there was a brotherhood in that band that was so special. And it was a neat documentary, man. I'd love, now that you guys have planned to see it, and I've talked you into it.
Yeah.
I'd love to recap afterward and see what your perspective was on it, but it's so worth the time and energy and money. It is. So.
For sure. Yeah.
Not a lot of people realize this, and it's kind of a, unpopular opinion, but John Bonham was actually a pretty good drummer. So
they're just figuring that out now.
You know.
yeah, he was pretty good. He was all right. You know, he was,
So here, okay, Eric, you'll appreciate this. You guys met my son, Caleb.
Yeah.
When he grew up, and I talked to him as he grew up as a drummer, right? I talked to him about all the greats in all genres, right? He was a massive Buddy Rich fan in the rock and roll world. I said, to me, there's no more powerful drummer on the planet than John Bonham. And there was there was the argument, right? Are you a Puritan guy or are you a Bonham guy? And I was like, I loved Stuart Copeland and his musicality. I was a huge Stuart Copeland fan.
Yes.
But the bombastic, the visceral stuff that Bonham did, like, was immovable, right? Like it was something that was you can't teach what he did.
Yeah.
And my son from the womb was a Neil Peart fan, right? Rush was everything to him. And so we'd have these conversations. I won't call them arguments because I loved Neil and I dug Rush and I saw him a bunch of times. Never got to see Zeppelin, of course, unfortunately, but I said, but listen to this stuff. And then he goes, why don't you show me some of Bonham's lyrics? Yeah. Okay. And enough said. So as amazing as Bonham was, right? He was not the professor in the literal sense, but the literary sense.
Right.
But let's talk about ETPW, man. So you guys have gigs coming up. There's a gig that I saw you had a poster for at the rehearsal room. You want to talk about the next show?
April 12th. Actually, screwed the date up. It's the 12th at Cascade Bar and Grill. And Vancouver, we do have some other stuff in Vancouver, Washington. We do have some other stuff in the works too, but nothing we can announce quite yet. But
no, you're not going to give exclusives. Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe Summerfest in Milwaukee.
Summerfest, yeah.
Oh yeah, Marcus, make that happen.
Marcus, come on, brother.
You got until July.
We are confirmed for the Sandy Music Fest out in Sandy in is it June or July? I can't remember which. It's out a little ways, but we're confirmed on that for Saturday night at the Sandy Music Fest, so that'll be cool.
We also kind of a funny story. Well, not funny really. Actually, it's not funny. The gig we've been booked 2 or 3 years now for Skamania County Fair, the headliner for Skamania County Fair.
Right on.
And
okay, what?
So I think it's 2 years ago. We're all ready, and Eric got a kidney opportunity, and so we had to cancel that gig, which is, of course, I mean, like, of course you're going to cancel. Eric was trying to find ways around it. Maybe I can they'll hold the kidney, like, Eric, go get goddamn kidney. Come on.
Maybe they'll put that kidney in a freezer for a couple of days.
so we back out of that show, but we tell the Skamania County Fair, like, we're so sorry, this is a situation. And they're like, oh, it's fine. Like, please consider us for next year. Like, okay, yeah, for sure. Next year comes around, we're booked. We're ready. We got the truck pulled up. We're going down the gorge down to Stevenson, and this crazy storm blows in. Kind of like you were talking about Summerfest, but like crazy lightning, thunder, and we get there as they're shutting the entire thing down completely. And we're like, so that's, I don't know if we have a confirmation if we're booked for this year or not, but I don't know. We might.
I was going to reach out to him. I'm almost afraid to, but we'll see.
Yeah. So.
Well, man, okay, so let's talk about, hopefully that gig happens. It's going to be happening, but Eric, so let's talk about the kidney, man, because this story of adversity and what you've been able to overcome is unbelievable to me. You want to tell your kidney story?
Well, I'll try to keep it somewhat brief because it could get pretty long. But basically, the long and short of it is, I was diagnosed with kidney disease about 12 years ago, and a kidney stone had sent me to the ER, and that's when I found out that I had kidney disease and whatnot. And it was kind of just a slow progression of my kidneys kind of start failing until in March of 2022, my kidneys got down to the point where it was time for me to put on the transplant list. And that was in March of 2022. My kidneys were functioning around 19 or 20% at the time. And, you know, they tell you, you know, it can take you several years before, you know, people sit on the wait list, you know, for years waiting for a kidney. Well, my kidney came in 6 weeks. So 6 weeks after I'm on the transplant list, boom, here they you know, have a match for me. So I went in and had the kidney transplant in May of 2022. Unfortunately, post surgery, I developed a huge blood clot around the kidney that choked off all of the blood supply to the kidney, and the kidney didn't survive. And so they had to open me up a second time, take out the kidney. And there's a lot of trauma. It took me probably a good 6 months to recover from that. But I got back on the kidney transplant list later that fall of 2022. I want to say it was like October, November. And then in August of 2023, I got the call from OHSU again that they had a kidney match for me for a second time. So in I go. That was when we had to cancel the Skamania County Fair when I got that phone call. So I went and had the second kidney transplant, this time on the other side. Unfortunately, I developed a huge infection post-surgery. I went septic or sepsis or whatever. Got the infection. It was a coli infection, got into my bloodstream. All my organs were infected. It was really bad. Anyway, long story short, that kidney also did not survive as a result of that. And so I spent probably between August and December mostly in the hospital of 2023. I was definitely in the hospital more than I was at home. And then in January of 2024, my own kidneys were such that I needed to start dialysis. And they were also recommending that they remove my own kidneys as well, because typically when they do a transplant, you still keep your own kidneys, you know, even if they're just working a little bit. So I started dialysis in January of 2024. And then in February, I went in for big surgery to have both of my own kidneys and the transplant from the previous August all came out at once. Wow. I was in the hospital for a while, probably about 3 weeks, and I was getting close to being sent home, but then I developed an aneurysm in my abdomen, and they had to rush me back into emergency surgery to, you know, well, really prevent me from dying. And so they had to put in a stent in the artery there, and they patched me up from that. And then this past September, I had another surgery for them to kind of piece that artery back together where the aneurysm was, and they had to use a cadaver artery for that. So, you know, they took, you know, an artery from a cadaver, put that in, boom, there you go. So now here I am, 2025, and I'm about to get back on the list for a third transplant. At this past couple of weeks, I've been going through all the testing in order to get back on the list. I just have one more test to hurdle at the beginning of next month, and then I should be back on the list hopefully by the end of March. And you know, going to try it again. We're feeling pretty optimistic that, you know, now that all my kidneys are gone, I don't have any infection anymore, aneurysms cleared out, all that kind of stuff, that this one is going to be the one that's going to be successful. But I'm still trudging on, man. Got to play music, and, you know, I'm doing dialysis from home, and that's great. It's a lot better than going into the clinic, and, you know, carry on, man. You just got to put one foot in front of the other. So
that's it, man. But you guys have, you've all been very solid rocks for each other, you know, supporting each other when you've gone through rough patches. I mean, to have,
I can't, you know, I've said it before, the band has been an absolute driving force in helping me to get through all of this, and the support from Jimmy and Paul and Jeremy and Ian and John has just been immeasurable to help getting me back on my feet. So love to everybody.
Yeah. Man, you know, the experiences that you guys had early on to sort of have each other's back. Paul, you know, you had talked about challenges that you had early on too, in you know, sort of you know, substance abuse, man, and really having the support of the band to kick your butt a little bit, but also to be loving and supportive. You want to maybe share a little bit of that hardship and how you came out on the other side with the help of your brothers.
Yeah, so that was during the end of Triple Swift, and I had been abusing OxyContin really bad. I got to the point where it wasn't manageable. I mean, I needed to make a change. And it was early in Throwback Suburbia. I had actually just joined that band. I want to say I was only in that band for a couple months, maybe 6 months at tops, maybe. And then I had to like call them together and tell them, like, I gotta go to treatment. No hard feelings, man. You guys can fire me or whatever. And they did the opposite of that, man. They stuck by me and said, no, we're with you, man. Go do what you have to do or whatever. And I ended up going on tour, and I part of that was during the time frame we had a tour planned, and my treatment was like, hell no, you can't go on tour, so there was like we had to get a plan, and it ended up being like going to meetings and stuff all the way down the West Coast, and there was one particular meeting I remember it was at Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, and both Eric and Jimmy went with me to the meeting, and it was super cool.
Did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Super cool.
That's awesome. Had you guys ever been to a recovery meeting like that before?
I know Eric
Okay.
has, and I know Jimmy had some with some family members in the past.
Sure.
Correct, Jimmy?
Yeah, I've been to some.
It's pretty fascinating, right? I mean, if you come with sort of fresh eyes, but you're there to support somebody else, it's amazing to see that what you might have come with preconceived notions that doesn't necessarily fit. That you'll see similarities with everybody if you really look at, because I know for me personally, first time I ever went to a meeting, I remember thinking to myself, man, I'm not like any of these guys, like this is not. And then you start to hear people's stories and you realize not only are we all the same underneath, but there are similar sort of experiences that each person in that room has had that makes that experience normalized, I think, in a way that it helps you then absorb the beauty and the things that could come from the message of a meeting, that they talk about the community-based support groups, right? It is about a community, and it's more about you've got a common goal. If there's life that has been unmanageable and you're really needing to get a handle on it, and you can do it with the help of other people in a room, no matter what it is, whether it's a 12-step program or anything really in recovery, but it's amazing to realize that you don't have to do it alone. Right. I think,
for me, that whole process really began, getting help with my PTSD from my war experience. And so, so it was like, I hadn't made that connection of drug abuse and the stuff I was dealing with. I just never made that connection until about 2018. And so,
really,
so then I started getting help from the VA and stuff. And my life is totally different. I mean, it's crazy. And now, with social media, getting in touch with a lot of the guys I served with too, that helped a lot. But that's sort of the catalyst for this record too. Sailor Songs are battle hymns. So it's sort of got this struggling PTSD. I don't want to say it's a concept album, but it's kind of sort of got the common thread through the whole record.
Sure. Well, the conceptual part is that, you've had those experiences, you're writing from real life, right? And that,
correct.
Jimmy, in your experience, as a therapist, mental health therapist, right?
Yeah.
You're dealing with folks that have had trauma and are recovering from whatever PTSD and a whole myriad of things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
The one thing that I try to do, is maybe raise a little bit of awareness to people, because I know that there used to be a real stigma about getting help, and I'm grateful that that's going away a bit. That people realize that not only does it make you less of a person or a man to ask for help, but I really feel like that makes you more of one, because you're willing to acknowledge that yes, it's time to be better. So while you share maybe a little bit about how you bring that to your experience in the band, I'm going to point up here on this caption, if you guys are watching this anywhere, there's a hotline number that you can actually call. It's a lot easier to memorize anymore, but 988 is the suicide and crisis hotline, and it's something that whether you're dealing with substance abuse issues, or things are just really tough and you feel alone and you don't have anybody you feel like you can call in the number below. If you just call 988 and call that lifeline, there's somebody on the other end. Their whole focus in that particular part of life right there is to help and be there for you. So take that number down, keep it handy, because I know a lot of you guys out there are struggling right now. So Jimmy, you want to share a little bit about your experience in that field?
Well, I mean, I think we were talking, last time we got together a little bit about there's a real kindred relationship between music and being creative, and sort of sitting with suffering and trying to understand people and what's going on. And so for me, it felt quite seamless. It feels like it's all part of the same, but it's tough. I'm a fan of therapy from both sides of the couch, so to speak. And yes, it's there when we feel alone, and we should have no shame about asking for help. It's also just great to get to know yourself and to, think about who you'd like to be and what sort of meaning you want to give to your life. So it's quite a broad range. For me, it's like a gift. I feel like it's a gift. I get to sit with a lot of very different people with a lot of very different experiences. And I sort of get to walk away with like an inspired awe about like the shit people are managing and dealing with, and still find ways to be graceful and creative and supportive to other people in their lives. It's, I almost just feel like a really lucky observer, quite often. So, I don't know if that really sort of speaks to what you were asking.
It absolutely does. No, I think if people are watching this or listening to this and have been on the fence about reaching out, because it's a daunting task to ask for the help the first time, man, it really is. And especially if you're in a position where a lot of people are, where there's so much on your shoulders and so much on your plate, and everything is so heavy and daunting that it doesn't even really makes sense to you to make that call, that first thing. And I think once you make the call, once you make the appointment, you show up and you're actively listening, life can completely change, right? And apply those things. So I'm certainly an advocate for mental health, wellness, and making sure that at the end of the day, man, we all have to look out for each other, and just life is definitely worth living in a really like full and rich way. So maybe one of the things that we really hadn't talked to you is just about the music. I know that you started off our hang the other day with Exit 21. I told you one of my favorite songs that I listened to as I was doing homework on the band was The Campfire. It was just a really a song that represented, I felt like, the vibe and timbre of the band, and you guys have really run the gamut of stuff, from sort of the Americana pop stuff and campfire folk type tunes, to some sort of a little bit of a punk reference in your rock and roll vibe. So, with the direction in the future, because the band has sort of rewritten itself, it's evolved, right, in time. So, where do you see the direction of the band going?
Well, I mean, I think we sort of got. I think we were really comfortable with the, sort of the process and what we're doing and how we're doing it and the quality we're doing. It's awesome. I mean, I was thinking about this, like, defining success. Are we rich and famous? I'm like, no, but I mean, we can write a song, present it, and have some really cool, talented people help bring this thing to life. I don't have to answer to a record company. I can do whatever the fuck I want with it, you know? Sure, but I'd love more people to hear it. But like, as far as I'm concerned, like it's the best, man. I mean, what we got is great. It's a blast, you know? So I don't know. That's where I'm at with it.
We genuinely like each other and enjoy each other's company, and that goes a long way towards. We kind of touched on that a little bit earlier. We don't have band arguments. We don't fight. We don't bicker and quarrel. Everybody's open and honest with each other, and when you're able to forge a relationship, you know, I mean, a band is like having, you know, it's like I've got 4 boyfriends. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you know, it's a relationship, and you know, one of the cool things that I think in terms of like the direction of the band and something that I really enjoy is that, you know, we have the ability to go up on stage and do like the full on kind of rock thing. But we can also strip it down and we've done this and done total acoustic, you know, unplugged, you know, shows, if you will, that gives a totally different vibe to this, you know, same songs, completely different vibe to it. And I think that's something that's really neat and special, you know, that we're able to do. It kind of reminds me a lot, and one of my heroes is Neil Young. You know, he's got his electric thing with Crazy Horse, and he can get up there and he can rock it with the best of them. But he can also just go up there on stage with an acoustic guitar and a pipe organ and completely blow you away. And I feel like we're able to kind of like straddle that fence, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I was thinking about, you know, listening to both you and Paul talking, Eric, and just about that question, where does it go from here? I was thinking, you know, finishing this record, in some ways to me felt like just the beginning, in that, you know, Paul and Eric and I have played together for a long time. We've spent a lot of time together in vulnerable ways, right? In a van and going through life shit. You bring a couple new guys in who, you know, they've got their own accomplished experiences, but separate from us. Making this record was just vulnerable, getting to know like how much, you know, how much can we say and push back on these ideas, or maybe I want it this way, or maybe I don't like it that way. I mean, as an artist, those are all really sensitive things to sort of breathe into the air,
right?
Because we're sensitive people at times, and so I was really proud of the way we all sort of navigated that. You know, we do all get along. That's not to say that there weren't times maybe where it felt tense because we had a problem to sort of sort out. What are we going to do about this song or this production? And, you know, we get through it, and I think it just makes us that much stronger. And so now it's like we can just do even more, it seems. We're free to do even more.
How do you get through it? What's your process of conflict resolution?
I think honesty, right out of the gate. Yeah, even if it's hard, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems to be work the best, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
You talk about being sensitive
honesty
people,
and communication, right? You know.
Yeah. I mean, if you know that the intent behind somebody being honest is not to hurt someone's feelings, right? I mean, if you're a sensitive people and you're songwriters, you know, it's your baby, right? So somebody's dogging your baby, it's pretty easy to get sensitive about it. But if they know that the direction it's coming from is just to make that baby better, then
and also too the actual with this band, our first album was an EP that Jimmy and I did in his basement of his last house with a out of tune piano. We played everything on it. Except for, I think we had a neighbor down the street play drums, Dave.
Yeah.
Played drums on a song or two. And
then
we
Kendall.
did what's that?
Was that with Dave Kendall?
No.
Dave Kendall is down the street from you too. So just saying.
Oh yeah, nope. David Harrison. Yeah, just lives across the street from me. Yep.
That's part of the requirement in the band, right? You got to all be within like 4 houses.
There's a lot of musicians in the hood. Yeah.
There is a ton of musicians, just even on our street. Yeah. It's pretty cool. So then we did the full length. The next full length was we also did, I think Eric played on it and Eddie, as far as I played a little bit on it. But this time, so with this record, actually, I think Eric was the catalyst behind let's do this let's not do it like we did the last one. Let's actually go into Jackpot and capture in a big room and all that. And then we had Jeff Stuart Saltzman, who we've all worked with before, who we love. And he gets the best out of you. I'm telling you. I mean, like, it's not easy. It's not always the easiest.
Right.
But man, like he's brilliant, man. He is brilliant.
He's a special soul. Yeah.
He is. Yeah, man. Like, and what a delight. Like, so that's what we did with this record. And like, so, and then, you know, like we wanted some pedal steel, and he just makes a call and has
nice.
Dude, that the pedal steel was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. The guy came in and Paul Brainerd, and it was crazy, man. Like how good he was. Like what a pro.
He's amazing.
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
So.
You know, I see that Skip was saying he's got a couple of his favorite songs from you guys too. What's a Boy to Do and Burn This Old House Down. But where would we be without Skip Stone? My goodness, this is great. So you mentioned the shows in April. If people don't know, again, I mentioned this, but if you go to etpw.band, you can actually go to the website, and let me get that link up there. If you go to etpw.band, you'll see shows. You're going to see archives. You can see old videos of stuff that you've done with Ian, right? The amazing, you know. And
so the great thing about the page actually is it has links to the record. So the record you can, you know, obviously worldwide, Spotify, Pandora, however you do music. But I think Eric also has links on there that you just go check it out right directly from the page, you know. We also have all that content, YouTube content from Ian. So Ian basically will take almost every song on the new record. He's got a video for every single song. And so there's also movie and film content. We're hoping, I mean, he's going to do a film. It'll be a documentary, the making of the record and everything in between. And so all of that content's on there on our website and on the YouTube page or whatever. But yeah, highly recommend go follow that. It was really cool stuff. Really good work, you know. So
that's great.
Yeah.
Right on, man. Well, you know, I'm not sure if Jeremy was able to multitask, and I know that he does a lot of teaching in the evenings as well, so he may not have been able to be here. But I love that Johnny Christo was here to be part of the chat here too. So when people want to go to the website, as Skip mentions, they want to buy some merch. You guys have great merchandise, by the way. I love the branding. The logo's killer. Yeah, man. Well, you sent me home with some really good stuff. I love the hoodie, you know, and you get some good shirts and great hats. This band's got good stuff. I should have been wearing my hat tonight because it goes with everything.
We really did try to focus on the branding. You know, Jimmy, I think I told you the story about the logo. Jim and I hiring a firm to which that was a fun experience too, by the way. But yeah, so it came up with that logo, and you wanted to kind of project outdoor Pacific Northwest gritty, you know, kind of thing. And so we're really trying to focus because really, like, that's where you make most of your money is on merch. I mean,
sure,
if we're being honest, you know. So that's what we try to do, you know, is make it cool, make the stuff cool to where you dig wearing it even if you didn't know who we were, you know.
Right. Yeah.
So
let me see if I can actually bring this in. There it is. So that's the logo right there. That you guys can, if you're watching this, you may not be able to to hear it if you see it. But the Exquisite Taste of Plain Water, that logo is fantastic. It's definitely professional. It exudes all forms of mountains, streams. You've got the water reference and still the obscure and abstract, you know, treatment of the letter. So I love this. Good. I'm sure that there was some collaboration in making sure you got that to happen. But
it's incredible for a professional firm that does that kind of work. The stuff that goes into that, like I was totally unaware of the science kind of behind that.
Sure.
It was wild, man. Yeah. Pretty cool though. A really fun experience. So
you do this kind of stuff, right, Kevin? I mean, a bit of graphic design and
Yep. Yeah. Well, and it really is. I mean, there is a process, and a lot of people don't realize what goes into developing a brand in general and how important it is. And you talk about the science behind it, but some of the biggest corporations that have come up with brand development, the iconic things like the Nike swoosh and the Apple logo, and you can see a brand and know without any font treatment or lettering or any kind of supplemental content that that brand represents Nike or it represents Apple. And it's more of a lifestyle rather than a particular product, So in this case, the without the exquisite taste of plain water written in that wraparound, being able to see the treatment of the mountains, the streams, the ETPW, on whatever form of product is certainly well done. I mean, this is a job well done, and I think a lot of bands could take benefit from sort of seeing that process that you've gone through and doing it right. That's the key, is that you haven't cut any corners when in terms of coming up with great product or merchandise. The video production is amazing. The production of the music is great. And it doesn't sound like a band that has rehearsed or practiced or recorded in the basement. It sounds like a professionally released product from, the highest levels of Hollywood, but
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, you
just need to get eyes and ears on it now. That's what we need.
That's what we're hoping for, right? So who do we get? If we're gonna put ETPW out there in a band, or going to be out touring, I think we talked about this at your rehearsal, right? We're talking about bands that you would tour well with, because we talk. That if you're in a support role and then international or a national band that's out there with a lot more eyeballs at one point, being able to steal some of that thunder is a great way to get extend your reach. So who do we put Exquisite Taste of Plain Water in front of to get?
I'll tell you right out of the gate,
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. That's it.
All right, T Swift. You hear that? I know you just finished 3 years of nonstop touring.
Yeah.
Like get that machine rolling again, because ETPW's got bills to pay.
If we can't get her, so I would say, like, just because I know he lives in Portland, but Patterson Hood, from Drive By Truckers. I mean, I think we'd be great support for them. I mean,
Jason Isbell.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
You familiar with a band called Dawes, Kevin?
No.
Oh yeah.
Dawes, DAWES.
Okay.
Check them out. I mean, they kind of cover a wide gamut of music similar to us, and yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, I do love the style and the sound of the band. It's tough to pigeonhole though, because you mentioned some of your influences, and I know offline and prior you talked about Petty being a great influence on you guys, and Tom Petty was not only stylistically maybe in a similar genre, but his attitude and mindset too was one that reminds me of what you guys have drawn from. That it didn't, you didn't give a shit about writing songs that were going to be commercially viable. It was about what came from the heart, and if it worked, great. And if not, man, you put your art out there, and that you gave it what needed to happen.
Yep.
I think we scared Jimmy and I met Benmont Tench one time it was at the Largo.
Really?
The Largo for John Bryan. We were there to see John Bryan, and Benmont was sitting in with him, and I had a ridiculous porn stash at the time, and we went and accosted him in the lobby because we're such huge fans, and like. Yeah. I think we have a picture somewhere, and it's like Benmont looks like, who are these guys?
That is awesome.
Fun. Yeah, great band. Oh my god, man.
Well, I'm not so sure that this is going to come through, because I want people to hear a little bit of what this band sounds like live. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying that what I'll do is, when we come off camera here, two things. I'm going to play a little bit of a rehearsal that we recorded at your guys' place. And then if you're able to jump over on YouTube, like I said, there'll be a card that you can click on, and you'll be able to see an extended version of the interview that we did over at the rehearsal studio with all 5 guys in the band. We talk a little bit more in depth on their contributions, but you'll get a little bit more behind the name and the focus on where this band is playing. So if you guys haven't already known, you go to etpw.band. You can find everything about the exquisite taste of plain water. And again, a big shout out to both Jeremy and John for making an effort to be there and at least being there the other day. And to everyone in this chat, it was awesome to hear people's feedback. And like I said, man, we'd be lost if it weren't for Skip Stone. Boy, that he's like the sixth member of ETPW. So and Winger and every other band, you know. So.
Every other band, yes.
I think I speak for everybody too, Kevin. Great job on what you do, and I
Yeah,
love your vibe. I love the positivity, and I'm a fan of you. So
Yeah.
very
I
cool.
appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm obviously I'm a fan of you guys, and I think if there's a chance to come and get to see you guys in live, you know, in like live, I think it'd be fantastic, guys. If you didn't already hear that, they got a show April 12th, I believe,
12th.
at the Cascade Bar and Grill up in Vancouver.
Yep.
And yeah, man, I'm going to leave you guys here with a clip. I think it's called X21, right? So that's.
I think it is.
I think so.
Yeah.
So
It might be.
what I'll do, take us all off camera, and both Johnny Christo, thanks again, and Jeremy and Eric and Paul and Jimmy, thank you for spending your Wednesday evening with me. And folks, if you didn't already know, man, go out and support this band, listen to the music, go see the live show. While you're there, buy the merchandise. You're not only going to be happy that you did with the music, but you're also going to love the fact that they have killer merch to wear. So
yeah,
Thank you, Kevin.
the exquisite
Appreciate
taste of plain water. Gentlemen, have a beautiful day. Eric, man, big ups to your health, man. I hope that just continues to go in an upward trajectory. And
Thanks, Kevin.
Thanks to all of you guys, man. Your positivity and contributions to the music scene is exemplary. So right on, gents. Have a good evening, humans. Love you guys. And I'll
See you,
leave you
man.
with Exit 21.
right.
Getting high, just another story to tell, just some more shit to sell. It's a in the body of the moon, it's a really me and you, love beneath this full of blue, things are often misunderstood.
Bye.